All right, Michael Van Runkle here for hotcars.com. Today I've got my hands on a 996 generation Porsche 911 Carrera Cabriolet with a hard top installed in place of the convertible soft top. Of course, the 996 generation is the divisive, controversial, notorious generation of 911 that introduced water cooling and the IMS bearing flaw to the 911's rear engine platform. But Porsche purists tend to hate just about everything their beloved company does. They hated the 911 when it was first introduced as the 901 because it was too angular compared to the 356. Then they hated the 912 because it had a 4-cylinder engine. They hated the 914, which was developed with Volkswagen. They hated the V8 engine in the 928. They hated the Boxster, the Cayenne, the Panamera, the Macan. Today, they hate the two fonts used on the 911's rear deck lid and the fact that turbochargers have made an appearance in non-capital T turbo cars. But nothing has been as controversial as the 996 generation, partially because of the introduction of water cooling and also because of the famous headlights that aren't round. But the 996 has a lot of advantages. It's the only 911 generation that can be had with 300 horsepower in a car that weighs under 3,000 pounds. Plus, everything that everyone hates about this car means they're extremely affordable on the used market. This is a 1999 911, which has the advantages of a cable throttle as opposed to the later drive-by-wire accelerator pedals, and a 3.4-liter engine equipped with the dual-row IMS bearing as opposed to the later and weaker single-row IMS bearing that is more likely to fail. This car does have the popular Fister mod or Gundo hack to its exhaust, which essentially changes it into a Porsche sport exhaust without the ability to make it less loud. So let's take it up in the hills and see how it drives. In the meantime, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Inside the car, another complaint that a lot of people have about the 996 is that the interior design was also shared with the Boxster. I actually don't mind it. It's very simple, it's not overly computerized. I've sat in a 997 and it is a little bit nicer, but this is all you really need. Let's take it out for a drive. Now it sounds a little weird when you fire it up. The theory is there's something wrong with the starter, but once it gets going and you rev it up, you can hear that Fister exhaust put in first. Let's head up the hill. With the exhaust going, oh, it sounds really good. We can keep it revved up nice and high with this 6-speed. Although in reality, I'm not really going to be getting out of second gear much because second gear is good for about 70 miles an hour. On these hills, we're rarely going to get above 60. So I'll probably keep it in second, maybe in third if it's not too steep. The car is super lightweight. Yeah, it weighs a little over 3,000 pounds because it's got the hardtop convertible. And technically it's got 296 horsepower, not 300. The 996.2 has 320 horsepower and the base coupe in manual weighs under 3,000 pounds. But this car feels light as we're going around that tight bend. But that tight bend brings us to some of the other concerns besides the IMS bearing issue that have evolved as people have gotten to know the 996 generation. Now the IMS bearing issue is well documented, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. The other two major concerns for the 996 are oil starvation and cylinder scoring. There are a number of ways to combat both issues sort of simultaneously You want to make sure that you've got, first of all, the right oil in the engine, and then you want to maybe upgrade your oil pan with some racing baffles and some 997 return tubes. For the cylinder scoring, the best way to counteract it is to live in a warm climate like Los Angeles, and to probably install a low temp thermostat that helps the coolant start circulating when the engine is cooler. It slows down how fast the engine warms up, but it warms up more evenly, which is the goal to prevent the pistons from expanding within the cylinder and causing the cylinder scoring issue, which ends up requiring a fairly expensive rebuild. It's not as catastrophic as an IMS failure, but it's still something everyone wants to avoid. Now this car has 167,000 miles on the clock, and it had an engine rebuild at 163,000. It's still very rev happy, and surprisingly, despite all those miles on the odometer, the chassis and suspension feel really good. There are some creaks and rattles, mainly from the hardtop convertible. But overall, it's just happy up here. And that, of course, makes me happy. We're at about 4,000 RPM. You can hear that exhaust note. We're on a little bit of a straightaway in third. Shift down into second. And it just comes out of the corner spirited, let's say. The impressive part is just how well this car has aged. Buying one of these for $10,000 to $12,000 with some good maintenance and some good ownership history, there's really no way to go wrong. If you're looking for a sporty car to learn how to drive stick shift, to learn how to come up in the hills and downshift well, I took that a little wide, perhaps because I was too focused on the downshift. But the brake pedal and the throttle pedal are in perfect placement. Everything about the car just makes you focused on the road and feel the road. And it's a 20-year-old car. The cable throttle is a little bit of a different experience to drive. I'm pulling over because we're reaching the top of Piuma here, and there's a lot of cyclists up ahead. You can see my ears popping like crazy as usual as we climb up this big hill. I just came away from this drive just so enthusiastic about the 996 generation. Yeah, it's got its flaws. Yeah, you need to get a PPI if you're gonna buy one. But once you have a little bit of confidence in the condition of the car, there's simply no way to go wrong. And the only other thing I can really think of that would compare, maybe at a slightly lower price, would be its sibling, the 986 Boxster, which you can probably get for $6,000 to $8,000, and then put a little money in to make it into a real Canyon Carver. I think that's about it for this car. I'm gonna drive it back down the hill and probably do another lap because it was that much fun. In the meantime, please like this video and subscribe to our channel so that I can keep doing videos like this, hopefully of a 986 Boxster next.